Hello and welcome, exiles, to the bear who achieved divinity through becoming a crocodile. Today we've gone through and really overhauled the defense. I want to showcase here obviously some AFK Simulacrum. Well, quote unquote AFK. Obviously we're spending time to activate the Walking Calamity, but it lasts around 40 seconds, which for the most part is enough time to clear an entire wave. So simply you click start wave, you go stand in the middle, you click Walking Calamity, and voila, you've finished one wave of Simulacrum. Now, the changes we made today were very defensively focused, i.e. we increased our armor. We grabbed the new Undying Hate Sacrifice of Flesh from last league, which gives basically a pseudo progenesis. 20% of damage is diverted to your life pool as damage over time, which can be countered by things like recoup, as well as just giving you outright a larger max hit. This is through the Undying Hate Jewel with Amanamus. I'm really bad at saying that. One quick note about Undying Hate. The first cranium is guaranteed free. I'm pretty confident on that. The second cranium, the item can poof. Important note here is the first cranium is the only one that really matters because that's the one that's going to give you some extra stats for your travel passives. Other than that, don't worry about using more craniums. Unveil all attribute or strength is ideal. You can also go for dex and int if you get a high roll and just change your passives around the tree, respec them slightly. Now, aside from that, we also added in iron reflexes, which allowed us to take advantage of Moriors. Moriors got a really nice buff this league. There's a lot of good mod combination. Life, I would say, is top priority. Next priority is all res. And then the third stat I think is flexible. Could be chaos res, could be crit reduction, could be global defense. All of these are very strong affixes to have. And then go on and try to corrupt for a fifth socket. The reason I like this chest piece with iron reflexes is it actually ends up giving close to 1500 total armor, which is competitive with a decent rare rolled chest piece, on top of giving us a bunch of all res, a bunch of life, a bunch of additional value through extra sockets. And of course, that third stat, which could be all res, it could be, or all attribute, could be chaos res, global defense. You get the idea. On top of all that, we also take advantage of getting a bit larger of an ES pool. You'll see we now have 288 ES, and we've added in Scarred Faith. As we did a lot of these armor upgrades today, which came down to a lot of rare upgrades and Moriors, Invictus, and Iron Reflexes, we also wanted a bit more ES pool, so that way all this armor mitigation, which prevents physical, can give us some ES recoup along with the life recoup from made to last, which helps a lot with that AFK sustain. Obviously, the biggest carrying factor in AFK sustain is still going to be Defiance of Destiny. Just basically makes you immune. If you can't get one shot, you can't die type of thing, but you get the idea. On top of all of that, we have consistent life leech in the build now via the gain damages extra physical on the Magi Talisman. This item essentially prevents any conversion from stopping you from dealing physical damage. For example, I have a skill called Walking Calamity, which is permanently up. It's permanently doing damage, but this thing always converts your physical damage to fire. However, it cannot convert gain damage to fire. So when we have gain damage through the gain damage prefix from the essence mod and gain damage from the rune from the bonded mod, we get a lot of physical damage. Speaking of which, bonded mods, this is an update we made which massively improved the character. This is the Uber lab for the character right here, Wisdom of the Magi, which gives bonded modifiers. Every one of these runes, you'll notice an extra mod in them. For example, gain physical or gain is extra chaos comes with gain physical on it. So it doesn't just give 13% gain damage, it gives almost 20% gain damage. This one here gives 5% gain of every element, and occasionally it'll give me a frenzy and power charge. That's not as important, but the gain is every element means we occasionally get shocks on enemies and also helps contribute to freeze buildup with our Batar's Vengeance setup. On top of all that, this one right here, 50% attack damage, also gives +1 attack skill. These gem levels are really important to scale damage because it applies to the Walking Calamity, the Maul, and the Furious Slam. One of the more important benefits of the bonded modifiers is actually the sockets in the runes. You can stack up to 3 of these in your sockets if you get a 3-socket scepter, which is giving 10% skill speed per socket. And this is a massive quality of life improvement. How the character feels to play, the animations of the skills just going off that much faster. I can highly recommend it. It feels awesome. Another big advantage we got from swapping some bonded modifiers in our gear over is getting this stat here. Reduce slowing potency of debuffs on you. This is things like chill, this is things like temporal chains, any debuffs that slow your character. We get 24% from the bonded modifier on our gloves. We get 24% from the mod on the boots, which I believe if we had a 3-socket, we could get this up to 48%, which would cap us off. But right now we have 48 between these 2 items. And then we grabbed this cluster over here for another 20%. So we're at around 68, 70%-ish, roughly, give or take. And if we get a 3-socket boot, we could get that all the way close to 100. It just effectively makes us immune to all the different slows in the game and feels really, really good. So yeah, that's some of the big improvements we made. A lot of the armor upgrades was contingent on upgrading our gloves and our helmet, as there's a lot of armor you can get there, along with swapping to Moriors and Victus. But this will be maybe the second to last update. I think the final update of the character, we're going to fine tune our setup, optimize our tree a bit more, try to really min-max it, and we'll see how that goes. One more thing I want to add here is you'll notice I'm using a From Nothing diamond. A lot of times these things can get way ballooned out of price when everybody tries to buy the same one because they're kind of rare commodity. Straight up, all you would change if you don't have this is you would lose 15 AoE, 10 CDR, 5 life, 5 mana, and 5 movement speed. Unspec these nodes and do these 2 travel points here and you get a rare jewel. I don't think it's that much worse to go to a rare jewel. In fact, I might just swap to it just to showcase it really doesn't make the character that much worse and saves you a lot of money to not get caught into ballooned up prices from nothing diamonds being price gouged. Another thing we did here, this pathing might look a little bit weird to people. I'm just simply trying to balance my percent armor applies to Ellie with this because I get 30 here, 30 here, and I have 40 on my helmet. I might end up changing this, but for right now, for those wondering why this weird pathing, I was trying to get some armor applies to Ellie back into my build after I lost some of it with my gear crafts I did, and that's how I chose to do it. Hopefully that makes some sense. Another big change in the build was weapon swap passives working for skill effect duration. Previously, the game would outright cancel Walking Calamity if you had it on weapon swap passives. It now works on weapon swap passives. However, there is a different weapon swap bug, which is, as far as I can tell, some of the nodes don't properly apply to the character if it's in weapon set 2 or weapon set 1. For example, I had a lot of like shapeshift nodes, and those didn't seem to be working with the Walking Calamity in weapon set 2. So keep in mind, if you do the skill effect duration swap, it will lower the weapons the damage of Walking Calamity, or at least that's what it showed in the tooltip. Even though I was only changing defensive nodes for duration nodes, so it shouldn't affect the tooltip at all, it was. So just keep that in mind. But it feels pretty nice to have the Walking Calamity last up to 37-ish seconds or something like that. Yeah, 37 seconds, which means you just don't really have to press it that often. It's just permanently up, and it feels really good. That's what the green passives are. That's weapon set 2 passives. The red passives are weapon set 1. Basically, swapping some max rage and armor for duration nodes on the tree to make it just last that much longer. Now that we've gone over those big changes, I also overhauled the build overview section, trying to refine it a bit down. I'm hopefully going to add some more crafting when I go over various specific pieces and continue to update this guide. The end goal of this is to disable the live tracker fairly soon here, make a tab for the end game, and then I'll add in a bit more gear description stuff throughout these tabs is the rough plan. Maybe I'll just have the end game one have the overview on gear priorities and stuff, the more of a write-up for it. But yeah, ultimately, characters are going really well, having a lot of fun with it. Hopefully you guys are enjoying playing Meteor Bear in the Fate of the Val Last of the Druge patch. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.